one. I don't even know if I want to use it. It's like a brand new one.
Oh yeah.
But the images, I like
Wow,
it.
I love the vibration.
Yeah, right. But
Yes.
like some of the images are like really simple, like so simple that like it's kind of
very abstract.
Yeah, right. Like that can be really good. I felt it. I felt the energy.
This way?
They're very similar, like kind of. I don't know. You know what I mean? Some of them are a bit more like, what is this? They're just different. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what comes through. They're definitely then like gonna come through because the images are not like super. Yeah. But I did get the death card in this, and it's like the best death card I've ever seen. It's like this skeleton who looks like kind of charming with this like rose in his mouth, and it's almost like the tunnel of love is like in the background, and I was like, yeah, it's like death, like let's move on, let's close the door, but like it's gonna be fine, you know. Like
it's great with the rose, right?
So with the rose, and it's like cutie, like it has a cute like face, you know. Good morning.
Here we hadn't go along, forgetting that we're live.
Hello.
Hi, good morning or good afternoon, maybe even good evening, depending on where you are.
Yeah, true.
Yes,
time traveling.
Here we are. It is Friday,
the 8th.
The 8th. Oh, speaking of the number 8.
Yeah. Today's just talking about that.
Yes. Yeah. How is everybody doing? We're enjoying a little bit of warmth here in New York. Finally.
Getting there. It's definitely better than yesterday. Then tomorrow is going to be a little warmer. And I think I saw sometime next week, I saw 61.
Isn't that delicious? I know that, I don't know where you are, but we've had enough of the cold. So we're kind of ready for spring, yes?
Yeah. I'm a very salamander-like person. Like, I don't really do well in the cold. My blood, like, retreats into, like, my body.
Imagine those people that live in those cold, rural areas. Like, I was in the Poconos over the week, the last couple of days. I think it's the weekend, right? And it was cold.
Yeah.
It was cold.
Yeah.
And you start looking around and saying, like, but people are used to this, you know, so
I think
it's all a matter of
acclimating.
That's a good word.
Isn't it? Yeah,
acclimating. And so here we are. And again, as you guys know, we don't tend to plan more than maybe a minute or two of that on, you know, the theme of the direction that we're sort of being guided to. We sort of kind of like take a quick inventory of some of the topics or, you know, subjects that have been around our perimeter over the last week. And we just kind of, talk about it.
Get into it.
Yeah. So what's going on this week?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like, as you guys know, it's Pisces season, and I've said this 100 times, so I'm sorry, but I'm definitely the type I like to understand where's the sun, where's the moon, what's going on, and allow that to help me just put words to how what I'm witnessing. Navigate maybe into my personal ritual, maybe into just the themes that I'm working with. But you can't deny that you see them whether or not you're into it or not, you know, or you're aware of it being Pisces season necessarily or not, you know. It's Mercury retrograde. I can't believe we got the tech stuff set up without any problems. My dishwasher at home broke. The roof was leaking in an area. We have to get new wind. Like, very chaotic in terms of like things breaking and having trouble and different stuff like that.
Not working, right?
Yeah, you know, so that's certainly in the air. But in general, Pisces season has been, I've noticed anyway, you know, depression coming up for a lot of people and isolation, loneliness and things like that. But that kind of took me into another area where this has come up as well, whether it's with people who I've worked with for Reiki training or just emails that I'm getting or conversations I'm witnessing online that have a lot to do with shadow work. And this is a question I get a lot because we've heard of shadow work, right? Like, yeah, we all got to do it. Got to face your shadow. But it's quite, it's kind of like the twin flame thing a little bit, you know, like you hear about it, but unless you really have experienced it, you don't really know what it is, you know. I think a lot of people think of twin flame and it's like the ideal relationship, and it's like it might not be the ideal. Exactly. It's like the heat and the fire and the transformation and a bit of chaos thrown at passion, but like that can be chaotic too, disruptive. Right? Disruptive. That's a great word.
Yeah.
So shadow work was something I thought that we could talk about and share a little bit about maybe our personal experiences or how we approach something like that. Because often I do feel that it is tied to something in your personal your personal journey. Perhaps you can predict it even through astrology. I've never done that before, but the planets we would be looking for, or that an astrologer would look for, somehow showing up in your chart would probably be tied to Saturn or Pluto. Saturn is the teacher, the hard lessons, the restrictions, the limitations, making you really work for it. Like, did you get that lesson? Because I'm going to keep giving you that lesson. And so that kind of thing. And Pluto is like very, I'm not super familiar with Pluto. I haven't worked with Pluto a lot, but very transformative in general, like change, like big changes, like changing of like the fundamentals of your life, or how you see an aspect of something. So these kind of play into shadow work. But, I'll just introduce my experience with shadow work. And it's just that I don't think it's something you can plan for. Like, I don't think you can be like, oh, I'm going on a shadow work retreat necessarily. I mean, we could go on a retreat or do something to honor the shadow at any time. But true shadow work, like truly going through it, I feel like if you're aware of it, you're lucky, because a lot of people go through those periods and they're not even aware of like that's kind of what's going on. You know what I mean? I am going to turn off the heat because now I am getting a little extra. And I think that when we're talking,
the vibration, the vibration,
right? I don't know. I'm getting a little warm already. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. We don't really talk about shadow work very often, I don't think.
No, I don't think we have. And I think it's such a delicate, fragile, and yet so vital, such a vital part of our piece of the puzzle of our platform, of our foundation, right?
Of knowing yourself,
yes.
right?
I tend to resonate with you in that I don't feel that we can necessarily plan to do shadow work, although, if we have started to resonate with some of the deities, we can take, say, a 7-day ritual or 3-day ritual to work with one of the deities that is connected to shadow work, like say Kali.
Yeah, Medusa.
Right,
we were just talking about that.
Right. We can, sort of set the intention and call one of the aspects of the Mother Divine and the deities to say, help me with some shadow work, or I'm looking. Yeah. My intention is.
Right.
So in that sense,
I agree with you. I agree with you there.
However, the initiations that we usually undergo are not often planned. The initiations of shadow work, they're sort of, just shown into our space with no planning. Right. Maybe when you're doing an attunement, maybe when you're going, like maybe if you go to a retreat or do some kind of going on some kind of purification, then that too sort of prepares you to be ready maybe for some shadow work.
Yeah, I agree.
But it comes knocking on the door.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that's how it was for me. And I think too, like we have to, again, this is just from my experience, but my shadow period, or a shadow period that I'm aware that I went through, was like a good 6 months long, maybe even a little longer, and at the end of it, I ended up like having a really close relationship and like a best friend relationship and different things like that really kind of kicked me out of it somehow, like a blessing in disguise, or like, okay, finally this is it kind of thing, like redirect, like take what you learned. And I feel like for me, my shadow period came up where I was, at this point, I was very spiritual. I was very logical. I was doing this work already. So it wasn't like I could look at, let's say, some bad choices and be like, oh, no, it's fine. Like I was like, no, I get it. Like this is like me experiencing something that my soul is calling me to experience. And I can look and see that it is a little like dodgy, for lack of a better way to put it. But it's something that my soul was asking for. And I was like, I have to walk through this fucking fire. Like I have to experience it, you know? Sometimes I think shadow work asks us to take an experience of, I hate to say this, so please forgive me. It's not meant to be, I just can't think of a better word right now, but like our lowest form, or like, there's the queen, and then there's like, I don't know, like what, like the prostitute or something, like there's these like different, again, not shaming sex workers or anything like that, but just that that difference of like grace and then manipulation, or like, oh, I can be so caring and so supportive, but I can also be manipulative.
Right,
You know what I'm trying to
angry,
say? Like,
deceptive,
yes. Anger,
yeah.
rageful.
Rage
I don't want
is
to
a
say
good one.
cruel. I don't
Rage.
feel like cruelty necessarily should be like part of your shadow. It's more of like the experiences, but maybe cruelness does come out. Like, who am I to say, right? You know, so
I think it's really beautiful, and it's a subject that could be very broad because, you know, I always say when we talk about reincarnation that, you know, we've been many things. And, you know, when I'm doing a workshop, some people don't necessarily like to hear that, or actually may even get offended, you know, and say like, what do you mean?
You have stabbed somebody in the back.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I share that is because if we believe we're part of the absolute, right, it includes everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't exclude.
Yeah.
And so part of the message of that is to honor the fact that we do have shadow sides.
Yeah.
To, you know, whether it was in the past or whether it's in the present. And we do have in the present. When we're perfect, we're out of this realm, because this realm is a school that's constantly reminding us to go from imperfection to, you know, to...
It forces you to look at duality, you know, like to transcend it, but to be like, no, but there is pain and there is joy or whatever. And okay, yeah, they are blended, but...
Right. I think it's important to, you know, to start, a good starting point would be to start in the honoring process, because sometimes when we begin this awakening journey, we're really hard on ourselves when we have a shadow moment, when we're having a shadow dark night of the soul period, you know, because as you said, it could be a night, or it could be weeks, it could be
mine
months,
was like at least 6 months.
To honor the process, to be gentle, to recognize that it is an aspect of us that's really trying to reveal something. You know, it always comes back to that, you know, very, you know, mundane, because we hear it so often, but aspect to heal, you know, to embrace,
or to extract the strength from, you know, which is healing, but you know, that aspect of it,
and to merge with, because once you merge with the shadow, you transcend it into a higher power, if that makes any sense.
You empower it, but in a way that it works, and it's
a good way to look at the shadow side is like a little child. You know, if we saw a little child who was broken, who was lost, most of us, I hope, would not ridicule it or, you know, be upset about it, but we would be compassionate and say, how can I help you? You know, and help this child to find its way back. And really, that's what the shadow aspects are. It's not a curse.
And it's not something you want to like sever yourself from, you know?
Exactly, because there's some people who feel very radical about, you know, almost like they've failed themselves, you know, or stepped out of their grace because they were experiencing a shadow part. I think it's an amazing opportunity if we can identify that it is an opportunity and then work gently in the process,
and be as much aware as we can, like you said, identifying, like going, like my experience, I was just like, I get it. Like, I know this isn't going to last forever, but this was just like something I had to experience, or this like time in my life rather, because it wasn't just one aspect. It was everything, you know, that I had to experience. And like having that awareness, I think if I didn't have that awareness, I don't know what would have happened. You know what I mean? Like maybe it would have taken over a little, or, you know, like taken a bit stronger hold or lasted longer or whatever. But through that experience, there was absolutely strengths that came out of it, like huge strengths that really, like, you know, filled out some of the gaps, I think, that I wasn't like completely connecting to, or anything like that. So,
you know, and there it is. I'm hearing you, and what I'm hearing as I'm hearing you is the shadow aspects are really asking us, really commanding us, love me. Love me. And that's why a lot of times it can be grueling, because we may look at that shadow aspect, however it may be showing up for you. It could be in a struggle, conflict, in some kind of relationship,
Mm-hmm.
any kind of relationship, not
Mm-hmm.
just partner relationship. It could be in your self-esteem, in
Things
your
tied to judgment,
self-love,
I would say, for sure, right?
self-love, right?
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what way it's showing up, one of the biggest messages of the shadow is, are you going to love me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know
At my worst, or like warts and all, or
right.
whatever, right?
And a lot of times, because we are judgmental, we repel that side.
Mm-hmm.
We find that we feel weak,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or that we failed.
Right.
All these adjectives now start being the keys to being the observer, hopefully, instead of the accuser.
Right. Right.
Of accusing I'm never gonna get this, or I hate myself, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm cursed. I've heard a lot of,
Oh
like people
yeah.
go into, like really dark
They
places.
attach to it,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
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 And again, the message is, are you going to love me? No matter how dark this may seem or feel for you,
Mm-hmm.
are you going to allow me to emerge within you so that we can heal this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like
I
bringing
think it's
together
really
the whole. It's
beautiful,
gorgeous. It's
but of
gorgeous, but it's
course
painful.
it is.
I don't want to say painful, but
Could
yeah,
be.
it could be. It could be. It's like discombobulating, like where you're
Right.
like, wait a minute, like who am
Right.
I? Like what's going on? Because
Right.
you're essentially like retrieving parts of yourself to heal them. I guess it's almost like a
Yes,
soul retreat,
it is.
fragmentation type experience, isn't it?
It's very interesting too, because when you think, I love this, and I love that we don't plan it.
Yeah.
That
No, I
it
was
sort of
driving here and I was like,
unfolds
shadow
itself.
work.
When we talk about shamanic work and
Mm.
soul retrieval, we talk about going into the underworlds, and just that word can give the
Yeah.
illusion, right? Ooh, underworld, dark,
Damnation. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Spooky, and
Chains and
right.
everything. Yeah.
However, it's because we are going to most likely confront aspects of ourselves that have been punctured, that have been traumatized,
Mm-hmm.
that have been, like really to a point of fragmentation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when we talk about the shadow work, the similarities to shamanic soul retrieval is, yes, why would somebody need a soul retrieval? Because there's been a fragmentation
Mm-hmm.
at
Mm-hmm.
some level of the soul, through the many lives that it's had, and the experiences. And shadow work is showing up,
Yeah. Yeah.
saying,
It's like a personal experience through it, I guess, or it's like your own, because you could work with a healer for sure during shadow work, but it's yourself. Like it's your, and I think that's why it feels so tough, and I think
Right.
that when you're in that shadowy period, or however it's kind of playing up in someone's life, they don't really want outside influence, like if you were in an experience like that and somebody was like, no, Blanca, you got it, you'd be like, no, like it's almost rejecting of like outside influence, because there's so much kind of like alchemically processing and healing within you that I'm almost say you couldn't see a healer, but it's almost like, what I'm trying to say? Right. Like you're not going to take advice probably, because you're still here and there. Like you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think it would have to be, I think healing work could definitely help. I know it will.
Yeah.
Could. However, it would have to be somebody who could also allow you, to take the reins. Almost like I always feel about healing anyway.
Mm-hmm.
A healer is not healing you, is helping you heal yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a healer can give you that space and just hold the feel for you, and put you in a place of light and help you release some of the things, then you can take over.
Yeah.
Look at those aspects, those shadow aspects in the face, which is really what they're asking for you to do. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No.
I was going to say, this is, again, I said earlier, broad. We could go to so many different places. So just kind of bringing it back to, like, say, fundamentals, and then again out to the shadow. People who have depression, who constantly, we're not talking about, because we all get the weather, or we're not feeling good, something didn't go right, and we may have a bout with depression. But somebody who's constantly feeling depressed, or, experiencing
or unfulfilled.
Unfulfilled, absolutely, big one. This empty gash of like something's missing.
Yeah, it's always like a hunger too for something else. Like, oh, well, when this happens, and it's like it's not filling.
I find that people that often find themselves judging themselves
and judging other people.
Yeah,
sometimes
have
you don't
a lot
realize
of shadow work
that.
to is an indication
Yeah.
that we should definitely invest some time doing shadow work.
Yeah, if you find yourself or anyone finds themselves actively in the moment of judging other people quite harshly, that's definitely a sign that like, no, that's yourself you're judging and you're just kind of projecting it out on other people. Sometimes I have done this thing. It's like, it's not really shadow work, but it's kind of to catch myself in that judgment. If I've ever, this is like probably right after my shower period, interestingly enough, but I remember going through this thing where I was very like, what is this? This is stupid, like all this stuff. And then I would be like, stop, like scrolling on Instagram, something like that. Like I'd be like, like when I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why am I? And it wasn't for everything, but just a few things would come up and I'm like, no. And I would just scroll down for like a minute and just be like, love, 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 love. Our doorbell's ringing. It's probably for the neighbors. Let me just, I don't know. Can we leave it? Yeah, it's not for us, right? So
it's not for us.
No. Okay.
No.
Like,
so just excuse the doorbell if you hear it.
But yeah, just like making yourself almost send love to things. Like even if you see, for me, it was like someone taking a picture of food or something. That's not a bad thing. I don't mind when people do that. But in my mood at the time, I was like, I don't want to see your bagel. I don't want to see your, I'm thinking of Michelle, who was here. We had a laugh about that. But instead being like, no, love, 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 and just kind of going that way. Just like really interesting to kind of switch and catch yourself, like as simple as it is. Go ahead. Sorry. So there was something I want to just mention too about like healers. And I don't know if this comes up for you at all, but in the beginning, when I was first Reiki attuned and I was like, you have to put names to what you do to show up, to kind of start to identify yourself more, in the beginning when you're like, okay, I'm going to work with other people this way now. It was really hard for me to connect with the term light worker because we saw that so much. And I was like, what about dark? Like, why? And it was that kind of thing. Oh, and I started to see light instead of like only the light, but as knowledge, and kind of took it in that direction. And that I was like, okay, yeah, like I can get behind a knowledge worker. But I think that sometimes in like the spiritual community, it is, and I would say it's not as much anymore. I've definitely seen a lot more people embracing like both sides of, the pie or whatever. But the term light worker sounds a bit, like only, what I mean? I don't know if you had any like weirdness with it,
It's interesting that you ask because I love to call the heal,
it's beautiful.
The community light workers.
I love it now, but I did struggle.
No, and perfect because there it is, unique perspectives, feelings, observations. I think that when I used the term light workers, for me, it emphasizes the fact that to the best of our abilities, we're standing in the light, but by no means, absolutely, again, going back to that totality, we have dark as well.
Yeah.
But as a light worker, we're hopefully conscious enough and, being we're awakened enough to know that, we've done a lot of the shadow work and that we stand, that our foundation and our field to the best of our ability is from an illuminated place.
Yeah. I like that. Illuminated truth. I think of like higher like, so if I think of light as knowledge and when I channel energy, let's say, I focus on connecting to like source, of course, or God or universal energy, but more so in terms of like my left brain head or whatever, like the highest intelligence, like your body's intelligence, like the intelligence of sacred geometry, and like channeling like that, like maybe I don't know exactly what's going on with this brand new client and we're having our very first session and we've talked, but we're just getting started. My connection always first is to channel this like super intelligence energy that does know, and like maybe my person doesn't want me to see that yet, like maybe they're warming up to me, but I can trust that energy is going to go like how it whatever
Mm-hmm.
it needs, kind of thing, because that's the intention,
I
right?
love that. Absolutely.
It's interesting.
And, is it because it's above, coming
Mm-hmm,
back to the
mm-hmm.
shadow part, well, unfortunately, if we can use that word, because I think that everything is in perfect divine order, but just for the sake of the conversation and this space,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, we've become adapted to associating right or say the truth from the above
Mm-hmm.
and the deceptive and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
below.
Right, right.
Of course that comes from the fact that the unattainable was always above us, in the
Mm-hmm.
heavens, and that hell, the inferno was below us.
Right.
So I love the fact that you're bringing that up, because maybe we need to sort of
Mm-hmm.
even address that and start shifting it around, that
Mm.
it all encompasses, when we talk about, again, I'm going into the shamanic world today.
Yeah.
There's 4 directions. There's not only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of 6 directions: up, down, front, back, and left and right.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, there you go. Right. But the point is, there's just not one, the one place, and, and it's all inclusive, and, there's anything else is not good.
Right.
I love to use the directions in that, just like when we do the 4 directions work, we're being navigated to another aspect, to a whole different chapter of your initiation.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at that, we can also say, hey, you may go into a shadow part aspect by going west.
Right.
You have no idea what's waiting for you
Right.
in that direction. And all the while, whether it's a challenge, a struggle, whether it's a shadow, it's still an amazing opportunity for what? For growth, for empowerment, for your strength,
completeness, like a complete,
right?
Yeah.
And so, we just need to learn that all of this is encompassed in your journey, and that not any part of it is bad, although it can be.
Yeah.
Really
It is a delicate shift, isn't it, to move from it's all good or it's all, we should love it all, but we choose who we show up as, through our morals or what, like that kind of thing, or not, having a bad day and then coming to you and being like, yeah, you listen to me then, but I don't really need to project that shit on you all the time, do I? Like that kind of stuff.
I love that you're saying that too, because another way that we can identify, and we have shadow work, we talked about being judgmental, self-critical, or judgmental towards others. It's also in your own behavior. How are you showing up? Right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we know that we can't fool, just like taxes, like those rules, taxes and death, right? And the 2 const, right? You can't lie to yourself, although you can do a real good job trying to, and you cannot lie to the universe. And what I mean by, we can put up this whole front like, oh, I'm so happy, and I'm in such a great place and I'm always there. And secretly, my life might be falling apart, and so am I, And what good is that? Who are we really fooling? Because we have to live with that truth. Right?
Yeah.
And the universe also knows. So now it's kind of giving us that, what we're putting out right back.
Yeah.
So in other words, a good way to identify whether we, should be doing a little bit of shadow work is, how are you showing up? Are you cranky? Are you irritated? Do you feel like you need to be defensive? That's a big one, right? All the time. Or do you feel like you have to be the victim?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
None of us want to hear these words, but remember, this is about truth. And if we want to get to that next highest, greatest place of fulfillment, of joy, this is not about impressing anybody. This is about you being able to have the ingredients to have the best quality of your experiences. Right?
And learn as much as you can.
Right. This is about you. It's not about... Then we should want to look at those. And we have symptoms or signals in front of us all the time if we're able to observe them and be honest about it. Like, oh yeah, you know what? I don't know, but I'm feeling cranky.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I
and
was like that on Sunday.
right. And again, we're not talking about a one
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Maybe you had a reason you didn't
No, you're
sleep, or
snapping, you're short
right.
with
I'm
everything.
constantly feel like I'm being, ridiculed. Or what is that feeling trying to unveil or
Mm-hmm.
reveal to you?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a shadow part that you need to
Yeah.
reconcile with?
You can even see it too, I'd say, in like the people who you interact with who like repel you,
Oh yeah,
like that's definitely something I think that is like hitting a nerve in some
Mhm.
way, or I can't always put my finger on it, honestly, because I've been around people where like I literally want to run away from them, and it's not
Right.
because they're bad, like they could not even say anything, but like their energy field has something, and I'm like, okay, I'm leaving, bye, like kind of thing.
Right.
We're thinking of like one person, and like I've met her a couple times. She's like so sweet, and like whenever I get around her, I'm like, I don't want to be. I'm so sorry. Like
Mm.
nothing personal, but like energetically, like I have to move away from you. And I don't know what that is exactly, but I feel like that can be a sign too.
It could be, when we were sort of talking a few minutes before we started, and my, like I had an idea in my head, so we'll definitely leave this open for a future
Oh
discussion.
yeah.
The difference between an empath, intuitive, a precognizant, how do we gauge like what we're feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Is it us? Is it the energies? Like this is again, these subjects could be so broad because
Mm-hmm.
there's so many different
Yeah,
levels of right.
absolutely.
When I hear what you're describing, I hear that you have empathic insight,
Right.
and we can't shut that off. As much as we'd like to, we can try to, um, hone it, navigate it so that it's not overstretched, or over outstretched, as many empaths can
Mm-hmm.
become. But it's part of your
Yeah.
attributes.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to sort of like learn how to honor that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it's also a message. It could be a message of a shadow if it's constantly repel. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe that you need to become a little stronger in your sensitive
Yeah.
space,
Yeah. Like
right?
boundary
Right.
wise, you mean,
And
right?
then other times, yes. And then other times it's just a real message that something is happening, like I was sharing with
Yeah. Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I had an experience in the expo. By the way, it was amazing. It was truly amazing. And we share these experiences in the light, coming from a place of non-judgment, but we learn,
Mm-hmm.
from these experiences. I had an experience where I had someone approach me, and they wanted something from me. I'm not really sure what it was, but you know, they kept asking me to identify certain things, and that they needed certain things, for me to address certain things. And they took a piece of my jewelry, and I put it on, and they became, mildly aggressive, aggressive,
Yeah.
very energetically, and them asking, to have my table cleared, and using profanity, and just being very out, like vocally outbursting, and
Mm-hmm.
sorrow,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it was. And all the while it was very it heightened me, and it made me put my antennas up.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized that there was an aspect of this individual who was obviously in pain. So again, here's, I guess, why we could share this. I hope is so that we could see how we can approach it.
When we see someone else in that kind of position,
Right,
or
or
for the
when
self as
we're
well.
experiencing it. Yeah, I was able to hold compassion for her and be able to see the soul, and yet all the while recognizing that there was a troll kind of energy,
Yeah. And the
menacing,
behavior
almost like
was
a tantrum child, wanting
mm,
attention, and having to be reactive,
Mm. Yeah,
with
I wish I was there for it. Yeah, I
profanity and,
wasn't there.
outbursts, and it almost looked like, it looked like many things: split personality, bipolar, uh, or just a distortion of energy,
Mm. Mm.
Uh, and again, what do we do when we could do many things. We can react, we can
Mm.
try to be, match it, which is
No, you're
no.
not. Yeah.
Or we could be discerning and be compassionate, and all the while be very
Protective. Yeah.
erected in your stance, to be the
Mm.
light, and not
Mm.
allow this to penetrate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
And so once again, if we compare that to, say, a self experience of the shadow, well, I'll use the same adjectives. You have to be compassionate,
Mm.
but you still have to take a stance in knowing that you shouldn't run away from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want? Or what do you need,
Mm.
actually? And this is what I told this individual: what can I do for you?
Yeah.
But I all at once, like, stayed in my stance of, I'm not going to let you be aggressive if
Yeah.
you need something from me.
Right. That's not how you
We need to
ask.
be in a even,
Yeah.
right?
Especially in a situation like that, because it's so public. It's not like someone pouring their heart
Well, you
out to
want
you
to
in
talk about
private,
shadow work being an initiation.
Yeah.
I think that it was for me in some ways, because here I am hosting an event, which for hundreds of people and light workers. And so, not that, I'm saying good, I'm doing so good, but it was an amazing, uplifting,
It's a sacred space. Yeah.
Fulfillment.
Right.
And then in the, so that's that. And then suddenly you have this happen, and it was, like visible to other people, and say, like, why? Like, why would this happen? And so in some ways it does feel like an initiation, and saying, like, no, I'm going to stay on course, like, and maybe this is just something that I need to reassert myself in my stance, that, this is a sacred space.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah. And it's also like when we interact with when we have those kind of experiences, like it was almost like at you, we could say, like you were kind of target, if I can put it that way.
Right.
But that was the physical manifestation of something, but who knows what might be just in the collective in general, like that, where as we take a stance in anything in our life, or assert any boundary, it's not just with what's in front of us. It's ripples through time and space and dimensions of, like, no, by the way, so all out there too, this is what you're gonna get. Like, I'm gonna stay in my grace,
right? And then we can learn from this as well. So again, if this, has a resonance. But interestingly enough, when I was doing my workshop at the expo, my husband Steve and my son Jonathan was sort of manning my table. I said, thank God you were gone. They said this other person walked in demanding to know who my teachers were, in a very aggressive way.
Jeez.
Who was her teachers? And she can't claim to be doing this and that. And, only Dr. Usai, from the rate.
Yeah.
And they said that she was very aggressive and, like, just very angry. I don't know for what, because I guess I call myself a guru, whatever. And so what can we take from there again is, look, there's the bigger the more expansive we become, the more ready we need to be that there's going to be people who are going to challenge us, energies, contradict, try to rain on your parade kind of thing, shake you, and we need to be ready for that. It's almost like a sign that you're doing a good job.
Oh yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, if you don't have haters, you're not doing it right.
Or if you don't have people questioning you.
Yeah.
And the lesson, the opportunity in that is to, where are you standing in your stance? Because if we're allowed to, hide or, run away because somebody is questioning what you're doing, if you're doing it authentically, then you're not being authentic.
Yeah.
It's okay if it's a little ouchy kind of thing, but get back in your stance. I think that's an important, thing for us to keep in our back pocket, because people are not always gonna agree.
Oh Yeah,
with
no, of
what you're
course.
saying, with
Of
what you're
course.
doing, with what you're holding, and that's okay. And as long as you're being authentic to yourself, and it's feels good, whatever it is that you're honoring, then you know what? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're
You know?
right. It's the whole like moth to the flame. I think it's very easy for us to think of, if you have a why did I attract this person? Even in a relationship, like why am I attracting this person? Why is like that kind of thing? And it's like, okay, there's something there. Like there could be something there, but sometimes again, like as you expand, or especially if you have a platform, or you're providing some kind of public servants, or you're serving in some capacity in that way, it's the moth to the flame. Like it's not
Mm,
necessarily because, oh, you're putting a bad vibe out, so you're getting a bad vibe back. Like,
right,
you know what I mean?
right, yeah.
But it does give you the opportunity to like put up that shield, or assert yourself again, and like, oh, did you not, do I have to reclaim myself? Is this time? Is this, oh yeah, a few months have gone and I have to say again, like now who I am, or as I'm developing, or like that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and just like the exercise of it.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to touch too just a little bit on your thoughts on ego death, because I think that's another
Mm,
theme that I've seen come up for Pisces season. I'd say, with the story you shared about like this individual, it's not like we're not saying they're a bad person or anything, but
no.
very similarly to how we feel in October about, the veil thinning, and everything just gets
Mm-hmm.
a little more easy to access. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you feel that way, like big
Mm-hmm.
time. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah, I do know you feel that way. I'm sure you do. It's safe to say,
Right.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, we have to consider that there are other times in the year where these things can happen, and Pisces is one of those times too. It's not as like, I don't want to say ghosty as the veil thinning in October, but it is a different kind of soupiness, like
Mm-hmm.
energy soup,
Hmm.
empathetic soup or something. So the sensitivity that we're all feeling, all that can come through in spiritual ways, obviously. I'm sure that's obvious, but just to be mindful of that and be more patient with people as they're kind of like acting like weirdos perhaps, but still being safe. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
difference, isn't there, between being like, oh yeah, she's having a moment, there's something going on, that's not her, but still like, but you can't treat me that way
Mm-hmm.
still,
Yes.
or you can't take off my jewelry, you can't,
Right.
or whatever. You just said that, so it's like the example that came into my head.
I love that you're bringing that up, and I love the term ego death.
Right.
I'm not a big, not that I don't endorse it or support it.
Ego stuff.
No, no, not. I do.
Okay.
More
Sorry.
so like the retrograde and thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
even I'm not versed at all with the houses,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess I personally was never really gravitated to it. And I know it has an influence, and I feel like I do need to learn about it just for myself, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess one of the reasons why I'm sort of a
Yeah.
little bit with it is because people tend to give it so much power.
Right.
And I think that, as with any tool, we should use it as an integration with everything else, at the utmost, always the self.
Mm-hmm.
And
and the free will.
your free will,
Yeah.
your creator. Remember, it doesn't matter what whether the stars are going this way or that way. Does it have an influence? Yes. Can it have an influence? I should say yes. It will have an influence if you let it. Remember that your intention and where you're coming from supersedes any gravitational pull that may be in the spheres.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think we can work through it, but I can't deny
Be
like how much
aware,
I
right?
feel it,
And so we have
like,
right. We will, without a doubt, that we have
yeah.
a vulnerability, and to know about it, because we can connect it then like a piece of a puzzle to something that we may be feeling. All right. However, the eco death is, to me, like when I hear that, that's like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, I see it like all by itself.
Oh yeah.
In that, we're always going to be going through some kind of ego death. How could we not, if the ego is part of this experience? And I guess for me, I don't know, again, me personally, I don't think we're ever going to conquer the ego 100%. The day we do, we're out of here.
Yeah.
So it's going to show up. But like the shadow, maybe we need to look at the ego from another perspective.
Oh yeah, I don't
Right?
think the ego is a bad thing.
Right,
It's
right.
it's I associate the ego with like our personality. You
Right.
know, like who I am
Right.
here, like how I act, what I
Right.
want, what I'm comfortable with.
Right.
And I think that when I think of ego death and tying it into the Pisces kind of season,
Mhm.
it's like spring is coming.
Yeah.
We've been in the shell. We've been in a cocoon.
Yeah.
There's been some transformation. The caterpillar is
Yeah,
dead. I'm now the butterfly or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
right.
that kind of thing. Or not
Right.
dead, but the ego, the aspect, the personality of the caterpillar cannot survive in the personality of the butterfly. It would be limited. It would,
I like
you know
that.
what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So I think that that's more of like how I'm kind of tying it in or how I'm seeing it show up, I guess. And you're right. Like it's not just,
Right.
you know, I like to take influence because I do feel like it comes up in the collective, you know, like what's going on in the stars and what we can look out for and be mindful with. And just like when you get a reading and you're like, oh, 3 weeks from now, don't run your mouth. You're going to want to run your mouth. Don't run your mouth. Like that kind of thing.
And yet again, you know, there's another aspect that I'm hearing, which is why we, again, need to be so open to everything. Because water elements would be more and air would be more subjected to, say, the planets.
Oh
and what's
yeah,
happening.
yeah.
Whereas earth elements may not have a resonance to it as much.
I agree what you're saying, but I would tie it more to like what planets are influenced. Like, so I'm a Virgo rising, and Virgo rising to me is like how my mind and my soul communicate, you know? So it's very Virgo. Virgos were by Mercury. So when we have Mercury retrograde, my communication is like, blah, 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 blah. Like I can't deny it. Like the other day I was making a video, I meant to say something, I said elephants. Like it was like what?
Right,
you know,
right.
So like I can't, like I'm like caught like on camera. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel like it affects me more, just like when we were in Aquarius season, like that affected me more. And I am a Cancer, so Pisces season, you know, like I feel like you're right, like the water signs for sure, but also like what planet is kind of playing out, you know, or even what season is tied to that planet. Because when we think about like ego death, let's say, like as just the example that we're talking about, like that could be a lot to do with like Pluto, you know, and like Pluto's of Pisces, so it kind of makes sense. You know what I'm trying to say? Like the planets, I think, are a good way to kind of tie things together too.
I love the caterpillar scenario though, because I'm connected to the ego death, because I think that we're constantly going through little deaths, whether it's the seasons or the cycles or life itself, you know, the growth process. We're always going through little deaths and rebirths, you know, kind of reminds me of the retreat, right? We're always emerging. And I find it comforting to know that, that, you know, that this is all part of the process. And like the ebb and flow, you know, bringing it now to that primordial play, the ebb and flow of continuity of, you always use the term of correspondence. Correspondence, you know, look, you know, it's birth, rebirth, death, you know, shadow. These are all parts, components. And as long as, you know, we're aware of that and honor them and, you know, work with those components, then we're going to keep emerging.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely. And it's okay. I feel like sometimes, like someone very close to me was having this kind of experience, and he had like a really hard time with it. Like he was like realizing that he needs to let go of some aspects of, you know, the past, like, and who he sees himself as. And like it's like, oh, but I don't want to let go, or I don't want to kill that version. It's like, we're not killing them, it's repurposed, you know. And I think that that's like a good way to look at it sometimes. And of course, like ego death is another like broad topic. Very often you hear it with like psychedelic experience, not very often, but sometimes like psychedelic induced like ego death experiences, like, I don't know, ayahuasca, or like, I don't know, something. I've never done ayahuasca, but just in general, like you could see how that like, you know, like
right. You know, I'm watching a new series. I don't watch a lot of television, and when I do, I try to find something wholesome.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys have watched, I love to hear you are, The Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, we just finished watching it.
Oh, wow.
I thought it was boring.
Did
I
you?
kept getting like, I kept wanting to look at my phone. Like, I kept,
Really?
but then I would come
Well,
back. There's like weird musical parts.
I
And
just
was
found
like,
out yesterday that it's only one season,
Yeah,
and I
'cause it's a
hate that
book.
because I don't look at that, and now I say, oh. But what I love about it, right? I fell asleep a few times.
Yeah,
to
it's
be
a little,
honest.
yeah.
However, what I love about it is that more and more of these shows are using, you know, like ultra abilities,
Yeah, I
you
was
know,
just
like
talking about
higher
that with
sensor
Greg. Yeah.
abilities as, you know, as the theme of the shows.
I don't think there's a you know, a mistake or coincidence.
Oh, I
that,
don't think
you
it
know,
is either.
media
I
has
think
been
that
a
more and
way.
more of this is coming up. And as we're talking about the shadow, you know, what are we trying to emerge to the highest version of ourselves? And if we only knew how beautiful we really are, you know, the multidimensional, like, what does the girl say? I heard a rumor, right? And the magic spell comes out, right? Well, you know, imagine if we had reverence for that our word, you know, that every word that we utter can heal us, can heal the world, can, you know, save someone perhaps from, you know, suicide or whatever, you know, a bad day. If we only realized how magical we truly are, you know.
Yeah, that is nice.
Right? And heal the shadows. It's okay. Guess what are we doing? We're sitting with the oracles. Yes.
We'll see how this one goes.
Yes. I'm sitting with a delicate one. This is not like my ultra favorite one. This is the energy deck. I don't know. It just kind of felt soft. Oops. Dropped something. Of course, the oracle always speaks what it needs to say. So no matter what deck it is. And Luna sitting with something very interesting there.
Yeah, I got it's called the Wanderer's Tarot. The images are very simple. So I'm curious. I've only used it like 2 times before. And I really have to look at them.
I love the color.
The color, yeah. The texture,
it feels
too.
Very intense.
It's yeah, right? I really like
very
it.
mysterious.
Yeah, that's the way. That's the word, isn't it? Yeah.
So how are we gonna do this? Are we gonna pick?
Maybe you pick 2 and I'll pick 2.
Oh,
I feel like I need 2 with this one.
Okay.
You know what I mean? To like try to tell a story.
Of course. Allow yourself to see the message resonates. There's no obligation. Whoops, there's a card that dropped out. Of course, we need to look at that one. We'll wait for Loon.
Yeah, I like the darkness of this. And I'm not going to read them in reverse. I do read tarot in reverse, but when I'm connecting to a new deck, I don't really mess with the reverse until, I don't know. Especially tarot, you know. I don't really read oracle in reverse either. We all have our own ways.
Yes, there's never right or wrong.
I'll let you go first.
So the first card out is strategy. You know, new plans is the first thing that I feel. A revision of things.
Here, do you want me to bring it closer?
Time to revise, almost like the seasons are coming to, you know.
It doesn't want to focus. It looks like a scribe or something.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, there's some mystery in the card as well, you know, but of course the first message I get is revision, you know, a plan of action, stop procrastination and put things into motion, you know, I feel signing of documents or agreements, leases, you know, contracts. If you're sitting on something, you know, contemplating, the message is a green light with this, you know, go for it, stop procrastinating, but putting things into action, new things. Very powerful card, by the way, I feel it.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm like, I don't have my glasses on. It's like. yeah, it's like a compass, a telescope, coins, money, a journal log, like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like everything's here. There's a key in the box, like ready to open, like
Mm.
everything's there. Like, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like.
So again, if you're sitting on something that you've been contemplating, this is a green light to just go ahead and have a plan. Stop looking at the plan. I feel like I need to be blunt here. Stop looking so much and take an action. Take it to the next level. Yes?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what we got. Oh, I literally just pulled this card for myself before, and I shuffled it.
Oh, wow, that's
So
interesting.
we have the Hierophant, but it's an interesting one. Like, look how different this card is. Like, the way that right? Doesn't it speak so different?
Very much so. Wow, that's a powerful
like
card.
An individual, like on a stool on the side of a cliff with a portal, like just around the cliff. Here, I'll try to show you guys. This one might show a little better.
Very powerful card, that is.
Yeah, it seems like, I don't know, it speaks to me of the shadow, like being around the corner, like this big thing that's there for us, and it's our greatest teacher. Like, the Hierophant is like the teacher, the all-knowing, isn't it? And it's like there is lessons there, like, duh, right? Like, but it's saying that, like, there's the stool, like there's something asking us to, like, be supported in this, or know that, like, take it little step at a time. It's not a ladder, like, this is a little kid, like, step stool, like, to brush their teeth, so, like, maybe baby steps into the shadow. Like, yeah, it's gonna be big, it's gonna be expansive, but, like, have some kind of, like, gentle foundation for yourself if you find yourself in shadow period of, like, okay, but no matter how dark it gets, I still do this every day, or I still connect with this, or I still connect to this level of my foundation, and, like, I'm not gonna let that disrupt or throw me off. I don't know, it's just kind of what I'm getting there. I don't know if you want to look at it, or
I agree completely. Shadow work here, and that there's this popular post where it shows a little kitten looking in a mirror and it sees a lion.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what I feel here. Allowing yourself in the shadow work to see your highest, most beautiful potential, in spite of the fact that you may feel little. Capture the highest version of yourself, because the reflection is always going to show you that, if you're allowing the true reflection to come in and not the ego part, the lower version.
Right. Well, that's it's a good point you said that, because when I think of the ego, like, I do think of personality and all of that, but I do feel like the only bad thing about the ego is that it does limit us, because it doesn't want change. Right. The ego doesn't necessarily want us to be happy. It wants us to be safe. So we might be miserable, but the ego's like, no, don't change. No, you can't do it. No, that's not secure. No, and it's like, can I? Like,
right.
I know it's not secure right now. I'm still going, that kind of thing.
Right.
So it's just something. Oh, I'll let you go.
Oh. Happy family.
Oh, cute.
And then right. This is a soft, very soft deck. I feel reunion here, or reconciliation. I feel forgiveness in this card. I feel allowing yourself to connect to either family members, groups, or tribe, soul family. Yeah. In a lighter way, and knowing that all things could be resolved.
I like that there's, like, they're together, they're holding hands, but there's still a lot of space between them, so it's not like this force of, like, like, oh, and you have to, it's like, no, it's okay, like, it's still, we're all unique in our own family systems, our own roles or tribe or whatever, and it doesn't have to be, you're right, like, codependence or like kind of situation, but, like, the chain is still there, even when there's space created.
I feel like this card is going to speak, believe it or not, for its simplicity to a lot of the viewers right now. I feel a lot of shedding, almost like a lot of forgiveness, and knowing that it's okay, almost like the freedom that comes when we allow ourselves to be us, free, and let others do the same. Instead of the attachment and like conditional,
Yep.
expectation.
Yep. Which is hardest with family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, isn't
So
it?
believe it or not, for its simplicity, I think a lot of people are gonna say
Yeah.
like, yeah.
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 This is exactly the same two cards I pulled before.
Wow.
Exactly. And I
Wow.
shuffled them.
So
I
it's
shuffled
speaking
them.
to you as well as the
It's
audience.
very similar. Like, as you pulled that first card, that's the same message that I heard here. Because even though it looked like pens, like it looked like pens to me, like ready, waiting.
Wow, I see something amazing in
and
that card, by the way.
I feel a little I don't want to say sloppiness, but just the string. The string that's here, and I'll show you guys. But the string, it makes me feel like it wasn't honored 100%, or there's something to be tied off still, or there's something to do. Like, why would the string be there?
I feel immediately as you show it to the audience, I feel, I don't know why I'm hearing this like so clearly, get out of your head.
Yeah.
Get out of your head.
Like, this is on the shelf.
Yeah.
It's like, come on,
get out of your head and be creative. This is very creative card. Creative, spontaneous, come from the sacral, which means passionate, spontaneous, I don't know, like colorful and just very expressive. But just as much to come out of your head, which means there it is. Don't be so analytical, critical. Don't give people so much power to like, oh, what are they gonna think? What are they gonna say?
Or like, can you believe they said that? Or
right.
Like, yeah.
Just be your color. I feel like an explosion of creativity wanting to be unleashed.
And that it's gonna transform a lot for sure. Like, it's funny in this deck, when I make my altar, sometimes feathers are what I would use for the east, but in this deck, it's the south, actually. So it's fire, so it is creative, which is funny, right? Because you feel it, but it doesn't. It's not like the typical, right?
How funny is that? That's interesting that you use. I love that, by the way. Yeah. So we hope that those messages resonated. We haven't done a couple oracle cards in the, couple of the last shows. We haven't.
I miss doing them.
Yeah.
I like
so
them.
I hope that they resonated in some way with you, and that the conversation spoke to you in some way. We love to hear from it. From you guys. Sorry. Right?
Mercury who? Oh, what?
Right. So before we let you go, anything going on that you want to share?
No, I mean, I have another project, but you guys have probably seen it before. I've been working on one with my partner called The Innate. It's just a meditation, affirmation, guided meditation kind of music one. It's funny, we've tried to do it for like 3 years. Like, we started and it didn't go. So it's really nice. It's only been like 1.5 months, but we've been doing like 2 tracks every week. So it's like kind of filling up.
Oh my God, I'm sure that it's refreshing.
It's so amazing. And we already have like over like 6,000 subscribers there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Like, it's just really nice. It's a really great creative process. So I really feel it there, It's different. It's like on the shelf. It was there the whole time.
Wow,
Third time's a charm, right? You know what I mean?
And that's perfect, because sometimes we feel like we're not in alignment because we started a project or a seed of intention,
we failed,
and it just kind of never took fruition. But you know what? Maybe it wasn't in divine order at that time.
Absolutely.
And now it is.
I'm so proud of my failures. I always think of them. Like, I've started many businesses before. Like, I've had like DBAs that I licensed, LLCs that I licensed. I've tried this and that, and this was like before I kind of like had a reawakening. But at the same time, it's like all of that I take it all, like
every
it's
one of
part
those.
of it. Yeah. So we should all be very proud of the things that we
I love that.
failed at once, because it gives us a much better perspective going forward. As long as we remember we have to change a little. Yes. It's not going to be the same sauce every time. Like, that's why maybe it didn't stick. Let's go back to the,
change it up.
Change it up a little. Try a little different. Yes. Yeah.
And of course, you've been hearing us. We're just, 2 weeks away, 3 weeks away.
I'm so
days
excited.
Away from the Emergence Retreat. We have started shopping.
Yeah, I did.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I've
got some
started to
dresses.
get nervous.
It's like 80, 90 degrees there
What?
right now. Yeah.
Oh, that's too hot for me already, you see?
Oh, I'm gonna be like in the shade, but like, ooh, like
my
so
goodness.
cozy. I'm ready.
We have to talk about air conditioner.
Yeah.
Because if not, you'll have to be picking me up from the floor. I get
Yeah.
heat exhaustion.
I'm
just
like
from...
a summer baby, so
Yeah.
I like the heat, but I'm not good in the sun. I'm
Mm.
just so fair, you
Oh
know.
my God. So we just days are 2 weeks or 3 weeks away.
Mhm.
Of course, there is still room if you
There's
are feeling
lots of room. Yeah, it's a nice small group. Yeah, it's gonna be so personal.
You know, and you just wanna dive in and come out to Costa Rica and join us. Reach out to Loon or myself or the Emerald Paradigm, and come and have the experience with us, right?
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Yes. And I have another apprenticeship coming up on in April 27th. For those who are on the tri-state area and wish to have that kind of experience, we're doing it all over again. Yes.
That's great.
And then we're gonna have to have a
I want to see everybody get together. Yeah,
Oh my
I'm
God, that's
really
gonna be
excited
amazing.
for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, you guys. Well, we love you. We hope that you have a great weekend. And as always, we leave you with our love, with our light, and with our peace. Have a great weekend. We love you.
Yeah,
hey, how about if we do the highs? We haven't done that in a while.
Done those.
Yes.
Those are my favorite. Oh, I just got electric shock.
Did you?
Yeah, I